It's going to zero. A legendary billionaire is trying to tell us that the dollar is going to go to zero. It's going to zero. This is how Forbes is going to start out with their title of this article. Legendary billionaire predicts rapid cataclysmic U.S. dollar collapse and a $5 trillion post-halving Bitcoin price boom. If that's not conviction, I don't know what is. You have a legendary billionaire saying that the dollar's going to go to zero. And then on the flip side, Bitcoin is going to be a $5 trillion post-halving increase in value. Let's go through this real quick. Bitcoin has surged back this year, topping its previous all-time high as traders brace for a China game changer. Say what? What they got to do with the dollar going to zero and Bitcoin's price post-halving? The Bitcoin price has bounced back from a recent low of 15,000 per Bitcoin to climb over 70,000 per Bitcoin alongside a gold price boom. Yeah, did you guys see the price action of gold recently? Let me show you. Look at that. Look at gold making all-time highs. So I think the overall market is speaking to us. They're trying to tell us that something is not right. They feel that something is about to pop off. They're trying to get prepared. They're trying to get their resources, their wealth in particular assets. Money is moving. Are you moving your money? Because the wealthy, they're definitely moving their money into these tangible assets called silver and gold and Bitcoin. So if this legendary billionaire is trying to tell us that it's going to go to zero, and I'm talking about the dollar, this could be actually a sign of seeing gold continue to make all-time highs, Bitcoin making all-time highs. Something is on the horizon. Now, as the Bitcoin halving supply cut is set to cause price chaos, legendary Bitcoin billionaire Tim Draper has issued a cataclysmic U.S. dollar prediction, warning the dollar will collapse by 2030. You got 6 years. 6 years before this legendary person is saying that the dollar is going to go to zero. You got 6 years to get your house in order. Sometime, and I quote, in the next 7 years, I think that we will have that cataclysmic event. Tim Draper, who has made billions from his $18 million 2014 purchase of almost 30,000 Bitcoin from the U.S. government. This is what he told Cointelegraph. Now, what event do you think he's talking about? Because what has been leading up to this cataclysmic event? Is it because the U.S. continues to print dollars into perpetuity? Is it because they got the printing press running on 24 hours a day? Is it because the U.S. is funding war at the war at the war? Is it because people are offloading their bonds that they hold with the U.S. government because they see that it's risky now? Is it because inflation is going to continue to increase that causes hyperinflation? That's going to cause a recession, a depression? What cataclysmic event is going to pop off? Does it even matter what type of event it is? Just as long as you're prepared. Quote, I hope anybody who's watching this is trying to at least have some Bitcoin so that they can feed their family during the time when the dollar goes to zero. As all fiat currency does. It goes to zero. So we're out here toiling, using our human physical labor, mental labor to make this fiat currency when it's going to go to zero. So why is the whole world fixated on a commodity or an asset that's going to go to zero? Have we been duped this whole time? Have we been tricked into saying that the dollar is powerful? If it's powerful, then how can it go to zero? Draper predicted the U.S. dollar will go the way of the Confederate dollar after the U.S. Civil War. I wonder if that's a sign. Look at that. Why would Tim say that? That the U.S. dollar would go the way of the Confederate dollar. How did the Confederate dollar go away? It's because they lost the Civil War against the Union. So maybe Tim sees something on the horizon like a war that the U.S. is not going to win, eventually becoming completely worthless and triggering bank runs. We already seen that happen with SVB Bank. There will be a moment in time, and I don't know whether it's a day or a month or maybe over the course of 2 months or something, but I don't know when it will start, whether it'll be a year or 5 years or whatever, maybe even 10 years out, Draper said, but it'll happen very rapidly. Meanwhile, so they're just going to skip over what he just said there and didn't break down into what he was trying to insinuate, what he was saying. Scary days are ahead, which is why many of the assets, commodities in the world today have seen prices go up into all-time high territory. Like, people ain't even worried about what the price of gold is. People aren't even worried about the price of Bitcoin making all-time highs, because apparently they see in the future it's going to be higher than what it is today. That is the only reason people come and buy all-time high instruments or assets, commodities, is because they have a feeling that whatever is coming down the road is going to be that much important that the price today is going to be nothing. Meanwhile, the looming Bitcoin halving currently scheduled for April the 20th, which is 5 days away, and Bitcoin's fourth such supply cut that will see the number of new Bitcoin issued to so-called miners who maintain the network fall to 3.125 Bitcoin from 6.25 currently. That could push the Bitcoin price higher. Duh, because you're restricting the supply of new Bitcoin. Quote, if you're an investor in the stock market, they don't bet against the Fed, Draper said. If you're a Bitcoin buyer, don't bet against the halving. It changes everything. The supply shrinks, the demand increases, and price goes up. That's natural economics, supply and demand, Draper said, adding, we could see $250,000 by the end of the year, talking about Bitcoin, something that we would give Bitcoin a market capitalization of $5 trillion. That's just Bitcoin alone. We're not even talking about any other asset. Just Bitcoin. Massive, massive move. Now, a lot of things is going to go into play of seeing that occur. Bitcoin hitting 250 racks. That's going to be a lot of things on the horizon that's going to play out in people's lives, that people are going to be looking for a place to place their money. Fears over the future of the U.S. dollar have been swirling as U.S. debt recently hit $34 trillion and is predicted to add another $1 trillion every 100 days. That's according to Bank of America analysts. Now, just imagine if you had your welfare, your expenses, your household working that way, to where you're just compounding debt, a high amount of debt in a very short amount of time. What would happen to you? Will they look down on you as an individual and say that you have your financial life out of order and that you may need to go out and file bankruptcy or something like that? But here it is. You have a government who prints massive amount of paper dollars to the scale to where $1 trillion is going to be printed every 100 days. You are flooding the market with these paper. That is why the wealthy is placing their money in Bitcoin. That is why the wealthy is placing their money in these other tangible assets. Because paper, once it continues to increase the supply, will inevitably go to zero. So now let's get back to this Bitcoin chart. You guys can see here that our idea is pretty much on par for the market to continue to be bullish. Okay, so I'm not going to change my price prediction. What I wanted to show you as well is take a look at how this market in Bitcoin is just bouncing off of this buy zone. Somebody is saying, man, $60,000 of Bitcoin, that's a very attractive price. Let me open up my wallet and buy there. They did it 3 times. This is the 3rd time right here. On the 13th of April, the market in Bitcoin neglected a falling below 60,000. We're seeing the marker of where people value Bitcoin. Because if they didn't value Bitcoin at 60K, then it would have continued to fall until they did find a place of value. That's the reason why I'm not going to change my price prediction. You can see the market in Bitcoin consolidated in between our sell zone up here around 73,000 and our buy zone down there around 60. That tells you that the market is accumulating potentially right in this range. We will know that this is accumulation once Bitcoin price does this, breaks out and goes higher. That we'll know that Bitcoin is consolidating. Another reason that makes me think that this is like an accumulation is that the market is not making lower highs. You guys can see that it's pretty much hitting the ceiling. It'd be one thing if Bitcoin price was making lower highs like this and then continually going down in price, but it's not doing that. So yeah, I'm not going to change my price prediction, but I will be leery on to see whether or not these buyers can break that sell zone at the top though. All right, so that's it. I'm done. Make sure you maintain your profitability, and as always, trade different.